Hey, this is Candia Raquel, and you are at the Sensual Sessions Podcast, the place to explore sensing pleasure through your senses and move in a way that is full of self expression and free from inhibition. Speaking of which, today we are recording an episode about being unapologetic that has everything to do with getting rid of your inhibitions and preconceptions. And for that, we have two special guests. This is Ianthe Mauro and Kim Staples. So, welcome. I am very, very happy and honored to have you here at the Sensual Sessions. So, I would like to know a little bit more about you. You two are the creators of the Unapologetic Uplift Podcast. So, what brought you to talking about being unapologetic?
Okay, I'll jump in and say that Kim and I met online, similar to you. We met in a virtual space. And I love that about our world right now is that we're able to find our people, even if they're not just next door to us or running into them at the park. So Kim and I met online. And I think the reason that we started Unapologetic Uplift is what we both realized. We met in a group of women who were doing some really transformative work. And it was being led by someone who we both felt was in a mentorship role for us at that time. And even though that group disappeared, it dissolved. Kim and I stayed together. You know, when you get into a space and yes. And we found this instant soul connection, sisterhood. And what we both had in common, besides lots and lots of things, even things you can see with your eyes, we actually physically could be sisters, right? But what we also had in common that was really refreshing is that we were both saying, we're so done with the people pleasing and tripping over and self-editing. And we are stepping into what Kim calls, I'm going to tell you because, and I'll let her speak for herself, but what Kim calls stepping into our divine woman era. And I just loved that so much. And it rang true to me at the time too. And I said, that's right. And what is that? What are we doing? Oh, we're being unapologetic. We're not apologizing for the space that we take up or the space that we want to take up. We're not apologizing for the messes that we create, for the way that we do things imperfectly. We're not apologizing for anything about who we are or where we're going. And it was just the most welcoming, nurturing feeling. So I've never let her go. And that's why we created Unapologetic Uplift. And I'll hand it to you, Kim.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, two of my biggest core values are freedom and authenticity. And I spent a lot of my life masking and, feeling like I had to pretend to be something that I was not. So I am incredibly passionate about all women just being able to be who it is they are, to not have to wear a mask, to not have to filter, and to just feel safe in the world being them. Somebody that had endured a lot of childhood trauma and had a less than ideal childhood, I always felt this deep sense of shame around where I came from and what I had experienced, when in reality, those things are what made me who I am. And I believe that to be true for all people. And I think that, the things that are different and unique about us are what make us so wonderful.
Yes, yes. What makes us unique is what makes us wonderful. And great part of authenticity is the non-editing, the leaving the mistakes in them. And it's very interesting that to me that what makes someone mesmerizing is in great part not the perfection of the person, but its humanness. For example, we have many like success stories. For example, Cindy Crawford was like dumped from all the modeling agencies because of her huge beauty mark that later on became the mark of herself, and that's
Yeah.
what made her a supermodel. Or for example, Giselle Bundchen, another top model with her huge nose Or even Sophia Loren, another classical example, that her husband, that was a huge cinema director, suggested her to cut her nose. That's how she describes it. And she said, no, I kind of like my nose, the size it is. And if I cannot make cinema because of my nose, I rather keep my nose than cut my nose in order to be a movie star. And like now we see, like in retrospective, Sophia Loren or Marilyn Monroe, like huge icons of the so-called ideal beauty that had to go through this trial of fire in a certain way. Like, are you gonna cut yourself, self-edit in order to please someone in the role of authority? And they claiming and taking ownership of their full self, of their authentic self with the flaws, especially what other people consider as flaws that later on became like the pride of identity. And I felt,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree. And I believe that what we, like you just said, what we believe to be our biggest flaw is actually our biggest gifts once we are able to embrace and own them. Like you mentioned, these supermodels, I believe this to be true for everybody. And it was definitely true for me. You know, the trauma, the things that I tried to hide about myself were actually the things that were my gifts. Now, you know, I help people heal their trauma. And I had to be able to own my own trauma and feel it and process it and accept it before I would ever be able to do that for anybody else.
yes, own your own trauma, process it, and then let that dark place become a source of life and light in a way. And yeah, I had always struggled in a certain level with emotional eating because it's typical in the having a dance background because it's a
Mhm.
super toxic environment. And this week I sent an email where I confessed that I was eating 35 bagels in a week. Like that's like the full screen of bagels. That's a whole lot. And I felt like so relieved. And I mean, it wasn't a huge deal because I have been on this journey of authenticity and being unapologetic for a while. But I was like, okay, if I put the shame aside and I just like share exactly what happened, and I was so surprised that I had a conversation with a very dear and respected colleague yesterday. She's 63 years old, and she told me about her personal story with emotional eating. And I mean, she's a huge authority in choreography and contemporary dance. She lives in Amsterdam. And we were having a very candid and candorous conversation about binge eating and then going for a week on transparent liquids diet because you have to show on stage and fit into the dance costume and etc. I mean, we were never clinically ill, so I was like close to anorexia and close to overweight, but always like I never crossed that line, but still it's something we both struggled. And later on, I realized that she was so open about that stuff because she read my email about the 35 bagels, and that's when we connect not from our prowess or from our excellence and etc., but that's where we can connect in a very human level when we are unapologetic about what what made us in other times feel ashamed or troubled.
Yeah. Yeah, totally vulnerable, right? When we are vulnerable ourselves, it's a big fat permission slip for other people to also be vulnerable. And I think Ianthe and I can both relate to what you're talking about in terms of like the eating and body image from being in dance, because Ianthe was an actress. I was in the fitness industry for a long time. So there's a lot of this pressure to look a certain way. And I know for me, when I was in that space, there was a lot of comparing. I would look at myself and I would look at all of the other people in the industry and I'd be like, I should look like this. And there were times where I would become very obsessive myself. I often talk about how I would zoom in on pictures of myself to look for the imperfections. And, it's just like, what the hell?
That's so painful. Yeah. And I wrote the words down as both of you were speaking. I tend to write things that come to me. And I wrote the word human and I wrote the word compare. Because just like what you said, both of you have said in different ways, we're human. And when we show people our humanity, it is an invitation for them to feel comfortable in their own skin. And it's beautiful. And I love it. And when you mentioned the supermodels, and I want to share with you a quick story, which is when I was a little girl, I loved Vogue magazine. My grandmother had bought me a subscription and I was obsessed with it. So every month I couldn't wait to get that big, heavy it was a heavy, real, tactile magazine. And I would go through it and then I would tear out parts that I thought, this is the life I want. So I would tear it out. I didn't understand. I didn't know the word manifest. I didn't know about vision boards. I was probably 10 years old but I knew when I saw something that I wanted that to be my life. So I would tear that out and I put together this old fashioned scrapbook. It would have those pages you peel they're like very thin, clear plastic, and you peel it back and it's got like a sticky part and then you stick it on and then you peel it over and it gets yellowed with age. And so I did that at 10 years old. The one model that I really focused on, and I said, not because I wanted to be her, because I saw her as one day she could be my friend, was Cindy Crawford. So I had a lot of pictures with Cindy Crawford in it. And when I was 11 years old, it was 1981. So she was just coming up, right? Or maybe it was 1982, whatever it was, the first time she was coming up in the modeling world. Can't remember. Maybe it was a little later than that. But the point being, I was very young and I'm putting it in there and I write things like, this is me and Cindy, and we're going on our jet to the island. I just would write these things. And I didn't edit myself at all. It was the biggest fantasies I could come up with. And I didn't care. Nobody else saw it. It was my own kind of journaling. Well, when I became pregnant with my first child, it was 1999. And I showed up. I was told, I was resisting this, but a friend of mine said, you have to go to this amazing yoga for prenatal yoga. And her name is Gurmukh. And she was Madonna's yoga teacher, prenatal teacher. And she's amazing. And I was kind of turned off because I thought, if this is just about celebrity stuff, I'm not into it. She dropped me off one day. It was in a home. It was in this woman's home, Gurmukh. And I go into the home and it's this very beautiful, intimate space. And she has tea brewing and she's a Sikh and she has her beautiful Sikh clothing on and her turban. And she has the most beautiful, clear, loving, welcoming face. And there's this little circle of women, all pregnant. And there are maybe 9 of us. And I sit down and I look to my right and that's Cindy Crawford next to me. And I went,
wow.
How can we dream our life? Well, this is how, everyone, if you're listening. So you manifest this way, right? I can't make this stuff up. So we became friends and we started a group where we met at each other's houses, all of us, all 9 of us that were the mommies in that time. And others were celebrities in the group. And we all met every single week with our babies on Wednesdays in the park. And then we met and had lunch at each other's houses and we switched houses. And we did this until our babies were 2 years old.
Wow.
And so when and the other part of the story, to circle back to what you were saying in the beginning, was that meeting Cindy in real life, I still felt starstruck when I saw her, of course. Yes, she's not only as beautiful in person, I would say even more so, because I like people's energy and being in person with people. I always find them more beautiful. She takes a gorgeous picture. We know that, but she's beautiful in person. And what I noticed, though, was not all the beauty stuff. What I I quickly learned was that she also has concerns and she also has insecurities. And we needed each other. She needed me as much as I needed her, especially in that tender time of our first pregnancies. It was her first, my first. And when I watched and witnessed what that was like, you know, it's a cliche when we hear, oh, they're just like us, stars and celebrities, they're just like us. And it's easy to say that, but it still feels intimidating and it still feels there's a comparison thing going on and it still feels like it's untouchable. But I will tell you, in my personal experience, particularly with Cindy Crawford, she is a human being who suffers all the same curiosities and messy moments that we do. And it is wonderful to remember our humanity.
Yes. Cindy Crawford is human.
Yes, that's going to be the title of this episode.
Yeah.
She certainly is. And I love her very much. And I haven't talked to her in too long, but yeah.
Yeah. And I can really feel your excitement and then the empathy and the transparent human and feminine bond. Like she needed you and you needed her, and you were at a very tender moment where there's no place to wear a mask. Like you cannot put with the facade because it's so like I don't
So
know,
raw.
like motherhood makes you transparent. Like I have seen my friends like really being like this close to going crazy with a kid. Like he just can't behave or he's super sick, and like the real vulnerability of having a sick child is like, I mean, it's terrible, and the best of you comes out and also the worst of you, and there's no place to be in the pose and be super sweet and kind where there are important things going on, important as life itself. And I love how being unapologetic and authentic creates this openness for connection that is not possible otherwise when you're trying to pretend. And I now even feel that it must be even harder for celebrities to put the mask down because there's an immediate article coming up on every stand about them being their true selves and not what everyone wants them to be. And I feel that's a huge challenge.
Well, I want to offer something. I think everyone here now is in a way a celebrity if you're on social media and you're doing anything on camera for the same, because the same thing comes up. Like Kim and I, we do our podcast. Is that really who we are? Yeah, it actually really is, because we're at that point of our healing where we don't have masks on. But there are times when I'm doing a video or a story on Instagram and I realized I was wearing a mask because I only wanted to show one side of myself that day, and it was for a specific strategic reason. And I really don't do that often anymore. But I just want to say it's very accessible, I think, for all of us to feel what it might feel like to be a celebrity, because we are showing up and not showing necessarily everything, nor should we, on social media. And that's accessible now to everyone.
Yes, and there's a huge temptation, for example, for girls to expose their body more because it will automatically bring more likes and higher ranking and more visibility. But I feel whenever you are becoming more visible in an unauthentic way, like not being yourself, like that's a huge mistake. It's apparently you will get more, but it will take you more from you. And especially now that everything gets to the open so fast, and there have been many cases of like the super vegan influencer that is being caught eating steak tacos in the street in Mexico, where she thought no one would recognize her. And suddenly her empire crumbles in 48 hours because the truth is that she wasn't the all plant-based super vegan person that uh, promoted that lifestyle, but it was like a lie and a facade. And something good, especially in these times of the AI, is that we have also developed a way to see through and cut through the facades. We can already feel what is authentic and what is like fabricated. Even if someone is pretending to be authentic, you can see the effort of trying too hard to be yourself, because at the same time, like, I want to be myself, but I am pretty much like everyone else, so I can only be authentic to a certain level, and I feel it has to do with not caring if you are even being authentic or not, like just being yourself. And that has everything to do with being unapologetic, which is the title of your podcast. So, when is a time that you can recall being actually apologetic, like apologize, yeah, like saying sorry when you shouldn't have said sorry, when you were just being yourself?
Well, I'm Canadian, so Canadians are known for apologizing for everything. It's just kind of like ingrained in us. It's like if you like accidentally are in somebody's way, apologize, or if you do anything that could potentially bother anybody else, you're taught to apologize for that. It's like, no, but I didn't do anything wrong, right? Like, why am I apologizing? I'm trying to think of a specific example.
I'll grab one. I'll tell you one while you're waiting,
Please.
because I want to hear back from you too. And I do want to say that what keeps coming to my mind with everything we're saying is the work that you do, Kim, would have saved me, would have saved all these people that I know when we were young from so many years of pretending and self-editing. Because what you do with your nervous system resetting and she does tapping and breath work. And I have to say, I didn't think I needed it. I was super arrogant. Like, I love that. And I'm going to promote it for you, but I don't need it because I can handle it. I've been through so many things. And then I did it. And I was like, I need this. Wow, I need this. So I just want to say that what you do, Kim, is just so helpful. And if you're listening and you don't know what tapping is or breath work, definitely check out what Kim offers because it's incredible. So here's an example of apologizing, which I would never do this same thing ever again. And I'm going to go ahead, and even though I'm like becoming name drop lady today, but I'm going to go ahead with another celebrity story because let's do it. I was a nanny in the early 90s for Bette Midler. I was her nanny. And when she was shooting the movie Hocus Pocus is when I was her nanny. When she did her last appearance on Johnny Carson, I was her nanny. I watched it from her home.
Wow.
I was there with her daughter when she was with Johnny. So to give you the context of time. Now, when it was time for her to do Hocus Pocus, I was told one day her husband came home and he said to me, we're going to the set of Hocus Pocus. We want to bring her daughter to the set and you get to bring her. And my reaction was, I'm so excited. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, how wonderful. And here's what's his response. Why are you so excited? And I went into this apology. I got tears in my eye. I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I started apologizing. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I just meant it's exciting to see her work and be on a set. He knew I was an actress, by the way, to be on a set of that caliber and to be able to bring her daughter so she can see her mom like that. And I'm apologizing, tripping over myself, apologizing. I felt so bad. I dreaded then going. Now I ended up having a nice time at the set. But when I look back on that, I think how sad. So what was I really apologizing for? I was apologizing for being too much. I was apologizing for real, honest excitement. And I see that I've done that many times in my life because I don't have a filter necessarily. Now I definitely don't. But even back then, I didn't have this filter all the time going, I wonder what people are going to think of me if I get excited. I would just allow life to hit me. And I was taught that from my family. But then I was hit with this like disgust by my excitement. So I turned it in. I got really apologetic. I will never do that again. Please, if you ever find me doing that, stop me immediately.
Oh, that's so sad. And that also actually sparked something for me. I used to always apologize for crying. Anytime I would cry, I would be so embarrassed and I would apologize to people for that. And I'm like this highly sensitive, emotional being. And yeah, I can just always remember like feeling this deep shame and embarrassment anytime that I would cry in front of people and be like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like, no, I am an emotional, sensitive being, and I'm not going to apologize for that if I need to cry. But I do find that being sensitive and when you cry in front of people, it makes people really, really uncomfortable. And that is why I always felt the need to apologize for it, because I could see how uncomfortable it would make other people for me to be feeling my emotions in real time.
That's a huge one because your job is to be yourself, and the job of the other people is to take their own decisions in regards to the information that you provide to them. And I feel it's very important precisely to show yourself as you are so people can love you for who you are, so people can choose to either accept you and love you or reject you. And that's like an automatic percolating of relationships. And that brought a traumatic memory to me, that you're 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 being sorry for crying in the past, because I recall that I was little, maybe 6 years old, with my mom, and I started crying, and she told me, stop crying. You don't have the right to cry because you have been given everything, which is more than many kids have. And I don't deserve your ungratefulness. And of course, I became a poker face to the point that, yeah, it's terrible. And I remember a time that I danced on stage and I felt an acute and unique pain in my toe. I was with the pointed shoes. And then I started to feel my feet, my toes getting like bit slippery. And I said like, oh no, I am bleeding inside my pointed shoe, which is satin, pink satin, and it's gonna turn red, and these are very expensive, and I'm gonna stain the floor of the theater. And I came out, and effectively in the dressing room, I just peel out off my toenail, and I was super worried about the fucking shoes and about being a mess. Like I am sorry for bleeding. And I remember my dance teacher holding me to the shoulders, and he shook me, and then I woke up, and he asked me like, I'm gonna call an ambulance. And the first thing I said was sorry, instead of saying thank you. And it comes back to that memory and that upbringing, very like Protestant from my Dutch side of the family, which pertains to survival. And I mean, if you're in a life or death situation, you better like put up and face the dragon and slay. But that's an exceptional case. And I feel that being unapologetic is it really takes slaying a lot of dragons, societal and cultural and inherited dragons. And it has to do also, well, first with self-respect. Like I respect what I am going through now. And secondly, respecting the other person. Because when you put a facade, it's manipulation. It's one thing to make them think something about you that you're not experiencing in the moment, so you can get something out of them, a reaction or whatever. And it's challenging, but nowadays I do cry in public and I do express discomfort. And I tell people that I care about, like, hey, I am angry now. I love you. And I'm gonna take some moments to process, like, I am not liking this, but like I can finally be vocal about my inner state of affairs. And I have noticed that in few cases it repels people, but if you backtrack, those are people that you already had glimpses that they were not here for an authentic connection. And with the other people, what I have seen is that the bond is actually strengthened when you show yourself. And it's like you're not even having to explain yourself. Like, I am gonna let this person see how her or his words are breaking my heart now. Like, because it happens anyway. Like, when people break your heart, they break your heart, even though you want to pretend not to show that. But when you let things, especially painful things, to show up, you give them an opportunity to repair on the spot and make like damage control. And the other way around, because when you value like your true self, you become more like caring about the vulnerabilities and the tenderness of other people. And I feel that being an unapologetic sounds in the beginning like something rampant, like, yeah, I'm gonna be crazy and not explain myself and not ask for permission. But the truth is that it has to do with delicacy. I feel delicacy with the self and with the other person.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I love how, because often when we're course correcting, we'll swing the pendulum really far. So yes, you might say, I've never really thought about being unapologetic. So what would that feel like? Oh, I'm going to be unapologetic. Oh, I'm going to be unapologetic. And then you're like, with a vengeance. And that's also not necessarily real and authentic, but forgive yourself, because as we're trying on new things, we often put on too much because we haven't done it before. And so I just say, be unapologetic about being unapologetic.
Yeah, I've definitely been there where I've swung the pendulum way too far to the other side and then kind of find your way back to center for sure. And I think just to touch on you're talking about how you might repel people when you're truly authentic. And I really think that that's a beautiful thing because, those people just definitely aren't for us. And in doing so, it also gives us the opportunity to attract the people that are genuinely for us. When we're vulnerable, it allows other people to see themselves in us. And that can really draw in those people that are our soul aligned connections and those people that are truly, truly for us.
Because when I told you I found you online, Kim, and I mentioned that, how we met, and it was from a group, I remember this feeling, even I, who is so unapologetic and authentic, I remember this thought, do I reach out to her one-on-one, or maybe she doesn't like me? I'm not sure. I wonder if she'll like me. And I did have that feeling. And here's the thing, do it anyway, people. Do it anyway. I did it anyway, because what's the worst case scenario? What if she didn't like me? what story am I making up? Why don't I just find out then? And then I'll deal with that if that's the reality. I can handle that if that's the reality.
Totally.
But making up a story to stop me from even attempting, which now has become one of my favorite relationships in my life with you, Kim, it's like I would have stopped myself because for fear of, oh dear, but maybe this is bold of me. Maybe she won't like me. Maybe this is not the right protocol because we're in a group and I'm going off, one-on-one. Maybe that's not even right. Do it anyway. And also one of my favorite quotes is rejection is God's protection, which speaks to that same thing of repulsing. So what's wonderful is gratitude has an energy about it. So when you're in gratitude, you are authentic, you are higher vibration, you have positivity. Obviously, the opposites of being in gratitude we don't even need to list. But what gets us to gratitude very quickly is realizing when we're hurt with rejected, that's happening for our highest and best, that we're being protected through that. We're not supposed to be in relationship with that person. Oh, thank you so much. And whether you believe in God or not, or whether your definition of God is the same as mine, doesn't matter. The point is to think of a rejection as a protection gets you immediately to gratitude and that feeling of thank you. And now you're not pushing anymore and pulling anymore. And you get to be you.
Yes. And it's not just like a mental or projective experience being authentic and unapologetic. It's an embodied experience. That's also why it's in the beginning so challenging. Like, should I do it or should I do keep it to myself? But I love what you say. Like, I will deal with it. I can handle it, and I am open to the possibility of rejection as divine protection. And we can understand rejection as a no. But if you don't try, you already have the no.
Yeah, you've canceled yourself.
Yeah, you won't find out. And when you do it, then you are taking a bet. You are opening to possibilities. And that's a creative act. Because when you're creating something, you're creating something that doesn't exist. You don't know what's gonna happen. That's why it's creation. And it requires a certain hump, a certain rising to the occasion. And I feel that rising to the occasion is actually a state of vitality. And that's how we actually live moment by moment, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next second. Every second is new. And when you decide for yourself that, okay, I'm going to try it, and even though it's risky because I don't know what's going to happen, I know that I am in a state where I know I can deal with it if things doesn't go as planned. So it's like also assuming like a maturity of knowing that you are taking a bet, but it's in a certain way a safe bet. You're taking a risk, but you are not putting yourself at risk. And I feel that's a key to highlight being unapologetic in a mature way, not in a selfish, crazy narcissist way, but in a divinely feminine, empowered way, because you feel it in your body, and then it's like an unfolding of creation and an expression of your true being. And I feel the formula of authenticity is somehow in the title of your podcast, that is Unapologetic Uplift. So it's like, yes, you're unapologetic, but not in a way that hurts someone, because that wouldn't give you an uplift. But if you're being unapologetic and it gives you an uplift, it's like, okay, yeah, I am in this creative state. I am being authentic. I am coming forth as I am, human, with my flaws, and with my great gifts. And this openness invites more openness. So, yeah, I am loving this unapologetic uplift inspired by you. So, would you share with us a little inspiration, exercise, practice, or something that our audience here, the sensualist, can put into practice when they are feeling like sorry for everything and they want to apologize for existence? So they shift into unapologetic uplift mode.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, first thing I always recommend if you're feeling like overwhelmed and like, oh, I don't know how to act or what to say or what to do, is take a deep breath. And there's this 3-part breath that is actually scientifically proven to be the quickest way to regulate yourself. And it's simply just this 2-part inhale. And your body naturally does this every 3 to 5 minutes. You may notice sometimes you'll just like, and then after you do that and you just feel a little bit calmer, before you act or say something or post on social media, just ask yourself, am I doing this for the approval of others? Asking yourself this question and asking yourself this question often when learning to be unapologetically yourself is so powerful. There was a time when I would actually have a sticky note around and it would say, am I doing this for approval? And before I would post something or before I would engage with somebody or say something, I got into the habit of asking myself this. Because, like I mentioned, for a very long time, I did live masked and I did feel like I had to show up and be a certain way to be accepted and approved and liked by others. So I was in a habit of saying things and trying to project this different version of myself to fit in and to be accepted. So when I would stop and ask myself this first, there were times where I had the opportunity to correct and be more authentic. So I would encourage anybody that is learning to be authentic, more authentic, and to take up more space unapologetically, to just do this. Because as we mentioned, sometimes we do swing the pendulum far to the other side. And in trying to be authentic, we'll start doing things to appear as though we are unapologetic or authentic, right? So it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Am I doing this for the approval of others, or am I doing this because it is in alignment with me and my core values?
Love it. Love it.
I love it so much. I'm going to write that down. I don't have a tattoo, but that would be one if I was going to get one. I love it. Am I doing this for others' approval or for approval? I'm going to add my little thing that I like to do, and we do it together actually on our podcast every beginning of the episode. But to encourage everyone, this is my practice, to light a candle. Whenever you light a candle, and I love lighting candles every single day. Whenever you light one, don't miss that opportunity that you have in that moment of lighting the flame to set an intention. So it's just simply lighting, simply lighting the flame. And that takes a second, right? But in that second, I want you to visualize what it is how you want your day to go, how you see your day going, what it is that you need that day. Maybe it's also an intention towards someone else or some other thing. Maybe it's the health of a friend and loved one. Whatever that is, it's imagining like on your birthday when you make a wish on candles, just doing that every single time you light a candle. And that also in that moment, surround yourself in light as a protection. It's just a visualization that takes seconds, but I really believe that it changes the course of your day.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. Changes the course of your day, how you shift your state surrounded with light. And yeah, I feel that's the gift of being unapologetic, to being able to let go of the mask and the fear of what may happen if people see you as you are. And then you discover that you glow, that your natural light, your uniqueness, your expression, your love, your candor becomes a beam that lightens your own path and the path of others. Thank you so much, Ianthe and Kim.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to have you here at the Sensual Sessions Podcast. So,
Thank you.
thank you. How can we learn more about what you're doing and get the candles, get some tapping therapy?
Go ahead, Kim.
For me, I am on Instagram, Kimberly_Staples. My website is kimstaples.com. And our podcast is Unapologetic Uplift. So you can follow us on Instagram there, Unapologetic_Uplift. And
on all the places that YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of them, it's going to be the same, Unapologetic_Uplift. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And for me, it's my name is everything. So Ianthe Mauro, Ianthe Mauro. There's no underscore. It's just one squished together thing. It looks like I am the Mauro. And it's me on Instagram. That's my website, ianthemauro.com. My candle brand is actually Objects with Purpose, but it's by Ianthe Mauro. So you can do Objects with Purpose and get to my website.com or ianthemauro.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ianthe and Kim. I am really honored to have you here at the Sensual Sessions Podcast.
And it's wonderful. We're coming from 3 different parts of the world, United States, Mexico, and Canada.
Yeah.
Anything is possible, people. And you can
find possible. Let's
I love
together.
it.
Yeah. Being unapologetic, sharing our light.
And thank you. Hugging you both.
North America hug.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And also thank you, Sensualists, for being here in this wonderful episode. Go follow on Instagram, Ianthe Mauro and Kim Staples, and also the Unapologetic Uplift everywhere. And if you haven't already, go to my website, candiaraquel.com, which is www.candiaraquel.com, and get yourself signed up to get these episodes delivered on your inbox weekly, plus the free guide to awaken sensuality. Until next time, remember to take the time to sense your fire so you can share the flame.